Hi, my name is Aaron Baker. I'm a high school social studies teacher in Oklahoma, and this is one of two God Bless the USA Bibles that was sent to me by State Superintendent Ryan Walters. And after months of claiming that one of these Bibles was going to be in every Oklahoma classroom, two finally arrived at my school with my name on it, specifically because I teach AP U.S. Government and Politics. Now, I don't want to talk today about the issue of Bibles in classrooms. If you want to see a catalog of my world religions library in my classroom, you can see a previous video about that. I want to talk about this Bible in particular. When I first received this Bible, the first thing that struck me was that it was very generic, leather-bound, King James version of the Bible, just like I grew up with, probably owned a dozen or more in my lifetime. It's not a study Bible. There's no in-text commentary. There's nothing unique about the version in and of itself. The only thing that is quote-unquote special about this Bible is that in the back, when I was a kid, where the maps used to be, is where we find a letter from the Greenwood, followed by the Declaration of Independence, followed by the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the Pledge of Allegiance, and then a place for notes. As I was looking through, I came across the Constitution, and since I teach government, I was interested in the presentation. As I mentioned, the Bill of Rights is listed here as well, although the Bill of Rights are part of the Constitution. And then if the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution are mentioned, and then that is directly followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, something became apparent to me. One could say that parts of the Constitution are missing, particularly amendments 11 through 27. But you could also make the argument that this is the wrong Constitution, in fact. The Constitution in this Bible contains what's called the Three-Fifths Compromise, which was summarily removed by the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery in the United States. The 14th Amendment is also missing from this Constitution, and that is where we get the due process of law. This is not an accident. This is an incomplete, at best, Constitution that's in this Bible, and it's a dishonest Constitution, and it's not the Constitution that I teach in my classroom. I believe that this firmly indicates that we are exiting a stage of MAGA revisionist history where the message is that slavery was not that bad, and we are firmly entering into one of the final stages of MAGA revisionist history, and that is that slavery never existed. And that's what appears to happen in this Constitution, in this Bible, because the original articles of the Constitution does not use the word slavery. The 13th Amendment has a direct reference, and if you are trying to rewrite history, leaving those amendments out will help make that point. This is very concerning, and I wanted to raise the alarm on the fact that this kind of blatant revisionist history is being pushed into our schools in Oklahoma, and it needs to stop. Hi,
Shalom. I want to start this off by giving honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Wahara Kakwadash. Peace and salutations to the elect men of Israel, starting with the elder apostles of the GMS on down, to the rest of you brothers, the brothers that I labor with, who are all pushing forth the will and doctrine of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai in all faith, truth, and sincerity, according to the true understanding of the scriptures. To all of you, I say Shalom. So, this is going to be a brief lesson in regards to this video that you see here that I just played. And this Edomite here, this dude who appears to be Edomite, he goes on to mention him being a teacher in Oklahoma and how they sent this version of the Bible, and how they're going on to put in things within this Bible to push a certain narrative, to push a certain agenda, right? And watching this, it just one showed me they're looking to serve their own bellies, right? And they're looking to further enslave our people by one getting rid of history as it is written and how it's supposed to be known. But on top of that, they looking for us to not pay attention to our history and focus on being one nation, which is a part of the the N.W.O, right? And what that reminded me of was First Maccabees. First Maccabees, the first chapter, right? Starting at the 41st verse, where it says, "Moreover, King Antiochus or Antiochus, right, however you pronounce it, says wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people," right? Now, this is during the Maccabean period, right? When you scroll up, you see it goes on to mention, Alexander the Greek, not the Greek, but the freak, right? And him reigning, right? And how our people were enslaved to these people. And those of our people that were wicked just further helped bring our people down by helping our enemy rid us from our history and to take on theirs, which is what you see what they trying to do with the Bible that they sending out to to the schools in Oklahoma, right? Or at least you could say specifically within this situation, this specific school in Oklahoma, just in regards to the video. But nonetheless, dude said that they were sending out these Bibles to different schools, and they received 2 at his, and he received one of the specific Bibles. But nonetheless, what he went on to mention is, all the things that were in the back of the Bible, right? Which one was the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Which the Pledge of Allegiance goes on to show, again, this First Maccabees 1:41, right? The one people, where it says one nation under God, but it isn't the true God, right? It isn't Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. It's Esau Edom, the wicked, your adversary, trying to be as God, trying to exalt himself up like God, which it goes to talk about in Isaiah the 14th chapter. I think it's the 14th verse, but I could be mistaken. Really, what I could do is I can just grab it real fast, just so you're able to see it for yourself. I think it's 14. Let me see. Yep. Isaiah 14:14, it says, "I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." Let me see if I can start above. Yeah, I'm going to start at verse 13. Yep. It says, "For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north." And this is Esau's, superiority complex, his God complex, if you will, trying to be like the Most High, acting as if he trying to play God basically, right, and have everything, have control over everything, and that And one thing that the Edomite went on to mention, mention in the video, is the 3/5 the 3/5 law, if you will, right? Which basically goes into us not being looked at as, what was it? Basically being a whole human, if you will, or a whole entity, you know. Them looking at us as slaves, which we still are, right? To this day, we're still slaves. And how we know this is because we have birth certificates. Birth certificates is a sign that we're still enslaved, you know. This was something that was brought out, years back. And I remember, brothers going into it. I remember the Elder Gabar, he had went into it in regards to pulling up like a specific form that basically went on to read, and it showed how basically us having those birth certificates is us being enslaved. Because if we don't have one, we basically can't have shit. We can't do shit. You can see that being the case, even with what's going on with with ICE and immigration. The specific form that he had brought out, it basically went on to mention, if you're not documented to where you have you're able to be identified through birth certificate, ID, social security card, or whatever, then you aren't permitted to basically make a living, But all of these things just further show, right? Because how the dude said he saw doing all that he can to try to make us forget slavery ever happened, basically forget the history. But we must understand that the things that were written before time were written for our learning. These things were written for us to understand where it is we came from, what it is we did wrong, right? So that way we know what we are, or what we are to do right, so that and also knowing where we are supposed to go, because like the saying, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you came from, right? Begin this real quick. Romans 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. You see? So we learn from our past mistakes and learn from the things that we did that had us going to hell the fuck off, which was us turning away from the Lord, us putting ourselves in position to no longer be holy, us neglecting the Lord. And that's a part of how we have been destroyed as a people, And with that happening, Esau just forwarded the affliction by trying to keep us down and keep us dumb and keep us ignorant, And it's through that ignorance that our people are constantly destroyed, which is Hosea 4 and 6. I'll grab it real quick. It says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. You see? So we are destroyed because we choose to reject it. But that's what's been pushed to us to think, with us being in small confined spaces, being projects, right? Which is a fucking experiment. We're basically in a box where we can't see shit. And the idea to even use your imagination is being so stripped from our people, to where our people are closed-minded and just caught in this loop of being in the curses. So on and so forth. Over and over and over again. And it's forwarded the affliction of our people choosing to be wicked and doing wickedness, you know? You choosing to reject the Lord's knowledge. It says, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. You see? So because we rejected it, right, the Lord rejected us, right, putting us under the curses, putting our people under the curses, no longer having the Lord's favor, you know? He says, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. And that's what happened, but that's why we got to repent, turn back to the Lord, so that way we are no longer under the curses. So that way the curses no longer hold against us, you know? Because a part of the curses was us falling away from who we were to the people that came up over us, right? Which I'll grab real quick. Let me see. Yeah, not Psalms. Deuteronomy 28:43 says, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Right? So Esau, being that stranger, has gotten very high, you know, above us. You see the people that's within our land back in Israel as our enemies, you know. They're the ones that's running everything behind closed doors, you know, the elites of the wicked, right? And our people are at the lowest of the low. That's why we get the ass end of everything, you know, being that tail while he's the head. He get first dibs while we get the fucking scraps, you know. When in reality it's supposed to be flipped. It's supposed to be the other way around, right? Because what is that in 32:8? It says, Deuteronomy 32:8, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, you see, it says, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. So everybody was supposed to get whatever portion they were supposed to be given after Israel got all that they got. You know, we have first dibs. It says, for the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. So we lost that privilege because we didn't hearken unto the Lord, right? And it says here, Deuteronomy 28:64, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other end. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And that's exactly what you see our people doing, and that's exactly what happened here in First Maccabees, right? I'm gonna continue reading here just to give context, because this is exactly what ended up happening, and this was a part of our demise. We lost the knowledge of who we were. Right? First Maccabees 1 and verse 41, reading down, it says, "Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandments of the king." It says, "Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath." You see? So we start going the hell the fuck off. It says, "And the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem into the cities of Judah, that they shall follow the strange laws of the land." You see? That's exactly what ended up happening. The stranger amongst us got very high, and we got very low, right? And then on top of that, what does it say? And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. You see? Even wood and stone. And that's exactly what you see our people doing, northern and southern kingdom. All these fake ass CJ, Jesus Christ, little knick-knack idols, when the Lord's name was never Jesus. It's Yahweh Shai, right? And the Most High's name is Yahweh. But it says, continuing in verse 44, right back in this first Maccabees, the first chapter, "For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they shall follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice." And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days. Right? So the things that were established and set up by the Lord, we getting rid of those things and we profaning those things. It says, verse 46, "And pollute the sanctuary and holy people." It says, "Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols," right? It says, "And sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts." And we're not even supposed to touch a dead carcass of a pig, a swine, So it's just all kinds of unholiness, profaneness, abominations, right? But it says that they, verse 48, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. You see? And that where it says leave their children uncircumcised, right? That's physical but also spiritual, because what ended up happening, our people with our people doing this is how they became Hellenized into thinking that they were Greeks, no longer knowing or remembering that they were they were Jews, if you will, Hebrew Israelites. And that's what you see going on today, right? But it says, "To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances." It says, "And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said would die." You see? So it says, in the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city, right? And those overseers is like what you see today, right? Even you look at the accounts in Exodus, when Pharaoh enslaved our people, right? He set up taskmasters, you know, people enforcing these things, enforcing these wicked laws, right? Who does that sound like? These fake judges, these fake police officers, you know, all these different people who are with these different positions of power, right? Enforcing all this wickedness on our people to go to hell off and to go astray, right? And there was one verse in here, I think it's, verse 57, right? It says, and whosoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. And it's crazy because that just made me think of during slavery, in regards to when our people were enslaved here, right, in the Americas, right, during the transatlantic slave trade. If any of our people were caught reading books, you'd get whipped and lashes. But if you were caught specifically reading the Bible, they would always put us to death. And that's exactly what you see going on here. You know? So this is, again, history repeating itself. The things that have been and the things that shall be. There's no new thing under the sun, right? Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. So you're able to see these things playing out, these, certain events going on. But it's all throughout the scriptures that our enemy is doing these things. Psalms 83 and verse 3, it says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people, right? In the NLT, they devise crafty schemes against your people being our people, right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. You seeing all these things happening on the news, word coming out in regards to what they're doing to the people that have been rounded up already. You know what I'm saying, in regards to Northern Kingdom, and ICE, right? You got them. They putting our people on boats, driving out to sea. The GPS and trackers and locators go off, and then they come back and people are missing off the boat. And then later on, people seeing bodies. What's the word? Come ashore, shackled up. You just had situation happen. What was it? A day ago or a couple days ago, where you had a sniper shooting. Immigrants in detention centers. So they doing a whole bunch of things, crafty schemes, against our people. They looking for every little way that they can get us and destroy us. We don't have to be taking these things lightly. But I'm going to just continue here. It says, back in the KJV, right? They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. It says, they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. Because when you hear the word Israel, you don't think of us being the Israelites. You think of this wicked ass Edomite that's in our homeland, setting up all these wicked ass schemes, which again, is written about. Their hidden parts are going to be discovered, right? The tongue is going to fall upon themselves, and people are going to start to flee from them, and that's what you're starting to see. But nonetheless, you're seeing how they have consulted against our people, right? And what does it say in verse 5? It says, "For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." You see? So they band together to be against us, to hurt us, to destroy us, to cut us off from being a nation. They want you to think that we all one, so that way you could just continue to cleave to them and forget that we supposed to be rulers. We are the true judges of the earth. Is it not for you to know judgment? We are supposed to know the judgment. We were the ones that were given the law, right? That we're held to a specific standard. That's why our people can't do what you see these heathen nations doing. We cut from a different, completely different cloth, if you will. You know, two nations are in thy womb. Two manners of people shall be separated from thy bowels. This is the history that our people need to understand and come back into knowing. So that way you know who your enemy is. So that way you can be circumspect and privy to what's going on out here and how to stay out the way. You know, because these mothers are doing all that they can to get us jacked up, to try to frame us, to cut us off from being a nation, right? This is Psalms 94:20. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee? It says, which frameth mischief by a law, right? And the NLT, can unjust leaders claim that God is on their side? Leaders whose decrees permit injustice. You see? But it's specifically against us. They set up all these laws, right? These declarations, these amendments, all these different things, right? These bills, they're setting these things up to go against us, to keep us enslaved, to keep us ignorant, to keep us stupid, to keep us under them, keeping us low while they can be up and above us. Cause they looking to build back their rulership. They thinking their house is gonna last forever. That's where their mind is stayed on. So they looking to keep us completely out the way, so that way they can continue to keep doing those things, right? But yet their end is coming, whether they like it or not, you know. But we understand they have but a short time, so they looking to try to bring whoever they can down with them, you know. It says, verse 21, right back here in Psalms 94, they gather themselves together against the souls of the righteous. You see? And condemn the innocent blood. So they're looking to condemn us, and that's what you see even happening with the CK situation. You know, a whole Edomite, killed another Edomite, you know. But yet they gonna try to use all of this as fuel to push the narrative that we're the problem and it's our fault. You know, you see the WWE production of a funeral where everything that they going on to talk about and say is things pushing this agenda further trying to condemn us, the souls of the righteous, condemn the innocent blood. So we can't be ignorant of these things, and the scriptures go on to say that. I'll grab two more and that'll be it. 2 Corinthians 2:11, it says, "Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." You see, these are a part of his devices. Him setting up these wicked decrees. Isaiah the 10th chapter, right? Isaiah 10:1. "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and right grievousness, which they have prescribed." You see, and in the NLT, "Where sorrow awaits the unjust judges and those who issue unfair laws." And that's exactly what they're going on to do. All the things that they are going on to establish, the laws that they're going on to enforce, causing inflation, right? Basically, causing shit to be so bad to where you can barely make enough to cost, to have a roof over your head, pay for the cost of living, barely be able to put food on the table, you know what I'm saying, clothes on your back, all these different things. And they constantly hitting people with fees and fines. There ain't no grace, no mercy, nothing like that. The whole world mourns, with them being in rulership. And I think you say that in the 14th chapter too as well, right? Let me see if I can find that. Yeah. I was thinking of verse 7, but that's in regards to them no longer being in that position. I think the scripture I'm thinking of is let me see if I can find it like that. People mourn, something like that. I think it's in Proverbs. Yep. Proverbs 29:2. It says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice." You see, and that's what has to happen. The righteous got to be put back in authority. So when this world comes down, which it will, right? 2 Ezra 6 and 9, right? 8 and 9. When this world comes to an end, our kingdom will begin. And that's the righteous being put back in authority, right? One that was never thought of shall take the crown. Roughly paraphrasing that in the Apocrypha. But it says, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And that's exactly what's going on right now. The earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Where are the true judges of the earth? Where are the righteous that's meant to be in authority? But because we turn from the Lord, all these curses have fallen upon us. And we've fallen very low, and our enemy has gotten up very high above us and has been doing everything he can to keep us low and trying to play and act like he ain't doing nothing. But that's the crafty schemes, the wickedness that he does the snake and serpent like actions. Him faking the funk, using slick, smooth words to wiggle his way out of some shit. But whole time, a snake oil salesman gonna sell you uh snake oil like it's not poison, But whole time it is. So we got to make sure that we not ignorant of Satan's devices, right? Not ignorant of who our enemy is and what his objective is. 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. You see? So we got to, it says in the NLT, stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil, right? The adversary, the deceiver, our adversary, the one that's going on to deceive us. They're trying to, not us specifically, those that know, but the rest of you that's not in the know, even you that do know. This is just a further a sign, to push to keep your mind on what's going on out here. The elder apostle Tar, he said, he can barely use the bathroom without some shit happening, and that's real. We getting closer and closer to these to the end times. We just got to make sure we continuing to measure the time diligently and holding to those things, paying attention to those things, so that way we know what's happening, what's going on, and that way we can be in place, right, to receive that salvation. But you got to make sure that you doing what you got to be doing, how you got to be doing it, Having your mind occupied in the Lord, having your mind built up and built upon the Lord, right? Making sure that you learning of the Lord's word, giving attention to reading, right? Holding to doctrine, the ways of how we're supposed to live within our daily lives, and holding true to those things, truly seeking those things, So we just got to make sure that you not being forgetful of what his agenda is, This be the last one I grab. This is John 10:10. The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. You see? That thief started with Hashatan, Satan, but also our enemy, right? Esau, Edom. He the one that's coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And when you look at his track record, that's all he been doing. So don't lose sight of that, right? Protect yourself through the Lord. Protect yourself by making sure that you on point with the Lord. Building up grace and mercy with the Lord. It says, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. So hold to the Lord. put on his yoke, take off the yoke of this wicked ruler, the God of this world, you know? And make sure that you paying attention to your enemy, you know? It's like how they say it, a detective got to think like a criminal to catch one. So we got to be, is that in this chapter? Let me see if that's here. Yeah. No, that was John. This Matthew, Salai. Matthew 10 and verse 16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So you got to make sure that you paying attention to how the serpent move and how he think, right? You gotta think ahead so that way you can be ahead and move and keep yourself out the way, you know. So that's pretty much it. You know, they furthering they wicked agenda day by day. So we gotta continue to keep getting ourselves built up day by day. So with that, I'm gonna give all the praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Wahawah Kakwadash. Till next time, Shalom.